everyone, it's Michelle from Scrap Secrets, and welcome to the Countdown to Christmas card series, card number 25. This one is definitely not suitable for work, so if you're under 18 or don't want to see adult-themed cards, please skip over to my next video and I'll catch you over there. We're going to be making this Christmas card with the XXXmas stamp set from Kindred Stamps. I took the stamp set, I took 3 images from it, and I stamped it in Catherine Pooler Midnight ink, stamped it onto some Canson XL watercolor paper because we're going to be using the Inktense colored pencils. So here I picked 4 different colors. This one is a reddish brown, and then I picked 3 browns to color in the images. And this kind of reminds me of those marker books that it's like a white marker and you go over it and it has all of the color underneath, so when you paint over it the color shows up. This is kind of what this type of watercoloring with Inktense reminds me of. So what I decided to do for this technique was lay the colors down, and then there you see, when I put the paintbrush over it, it like magically appears to be a different color. So it looks a little bit yellow on camera. I'm not really sure why. It was definitely not yellow. There you go. You can see the brownish red and how it was too red. I wanted more of a true gingerbread color. So you'll see how I fix it in a couple of minutes. I did leave all of the coloring in, I believe. I might have left, I think I did leave all of it in. So I'm going to walk you guys through it and what I did. So that was the first technique I did, and then the second technique was the watercolor brush to the pencil that you just saw there. So instead of scribbling it down because the image was already wet, I actually wet my paintbrush and then went directly to the tip of the colored pencil and picked up some color from there. Now, I wanted to let this dry a little bit before I went in and really fixed it. I tried with the brush to the tip, but it wasn't really working, so I knew I needed something else. So I moved on to the second image, which is unlike me because normally I would sit there and try to fix it right away, but I wanted to let it dry to see if it dried back any softer and I liked it more. And here's a hint, it didn't. I didn't like it, so I did try to fix it. So now I'm going in with the second one and not using that red color. So I'm mainly going to be using Baked Earth and Willow. Those were the colored pencils that I used mostly. So Baked Earth is the one that was in the 12 count, and I really liked the way that color looks. I think it's a really nice brown. But I wanted something with a little bit of red in it, so I was trying to find a color combination. I really should have tested these out first, but that's not the way I roll. I kind of like to throw caution to the wind sometimes and just go ahead and scribble it on, and then once I realize what I didn't work, figure out a way to fix it. So that's what you're going to see here. You're going to see, if you guys are new to my channel, welcome. And that's what you're going to see a lot of, is me trying something, it not working, and then being like, oh crap, I got to fix it. So that's what you'll see. So anyway, back to the coloring in the card. I have just been doing a lot of the, the initial laying of the color down and kind of putting 2 to 3 colors down, and then picking up my paintbrush, put some water on it, and mix those colors together. I think that it comes out with a nicer like mix of colors that way. So now that the first image was dry a little bit, I went back in with a little bit more of that Baked Earth just to try to tone down that red. And it kind of did the job. I went in with a little bit of Willow as well to, just to try to get rid of that harshness of the red. He kind of looked like maybe, or the gingerbread man and woman kind of looked like they were out in the sun a little bit, which if you think about what they're doing, that's kind of funny, but anyway. So, I just kind of went back and forth. I did scribble some of the pencil down onto something that was wet, and I believe I do that on the third and final one. Yes, I do, because I do it on the gingerbread man's chest, and uh, it was left some terrible lines. So I had to figure out again a way to fix that. So you'll notice that obviously a lot of this is my mistakes when I'm coloring. And then you'll get to see how I fix them. So here I'm just going back in and adding a little bit more shading. I really didn't worry too much about shading like I do when I'm doing Copics. I kind of just wanted to get some color down on the images. I didn't, like I said, didn't really worry too much about the shadows and stuff like that. Once I get a little bit more familiar with the colors and how they work together and what ones blend nicely and what's darker than what, I probably will start to do a little bit more shading. Now I do, in this instance, I usually do put the darker color down in the areas where I think that it would be the darkest, then I go back in and fill it in with a little bit of lighter colors. So I try to do a little bit of shading, but then once you start adding the water to it, I have to come up with a different technique, because as soon as you add the water, it kind of just mixes them together, and some of the areas do stay dark if you keep the water away from it, but I wasn't really paying enough attention when it came to that. So I think here is where you're gonna see me do the chest hair on what it ends up looking like chest hair on the gingerbread man, because I put the image is wet and I put the colored pencil down on it, and you can see the colored pencil lines on this. So there's another tip for you, is do not apply the colored pencil down to a wet area, because you can't, here you go, this is exactly what I did, and then I'm like, oh, it's really not spreading out, and you can see the lines. So don't do what I did, and you can see I tried to mop it up and it didn't really work. So I'm actually going to, I tried to go in with the tip to the water brush to, or the brush to tip method, and that wasn't working, the towel wasn't working. So I just decided, let's go in and basically color him all in. That was my solution, was just to darken everything. Not the best solution, but it was a solution, and those lines kind of faded because now he looks like he has, I guess, chest hair all over him. But anyway, he was just a little bit darker than I wanted him to be, but it was just kind of a practice thing for me. Just so that I could try out my Inktense colored pencils, because I had them for a month and I hadn't used them, almost a month, and I hadn't used them yet, just because I was busy working on Christmas cards. So there is the gingerbread people. And now I'm showing you, I used this die. I believe this is from Simon Says Stamp. It's a birthday die, but it's a Polaroid, and it's the only one I have. So what I went and did was I cut out the birthday letters, and it makes a perfect Polaroid. So I cut out 2 in this candy cane paper and then 1 in that green pattern paper. So I'm going to stack them like little Polaroids on the front of I believe it was 9 by 3.5. So it was a 9 by 7, and then I scored it down the middle at 3.5. So I'm going to be making a slimline card. And that slimline card is just out of patterned paper, because it was a little bit thicker, and then the inside is all blank. So it worked out. So now I'm just going to pick the images and pick which one I want to go first, second, and third. And I did leave a border around it that was a little bit larger than the frame, so that I could make sure I centered it up the best that I could. And then I just cut off the excess on both sides. And you'll see I used MFT On Point Precision Glue to go around the sides and cut off to glue it down, and then I took my Tim Holtz scissors and went and cut off the sides. So there's the second image, and then now I just line them up so that I could make sure what angle I wanted them to go at. I could have actually put the red one underneath of the green. I tried that at first, because I wanted maybe more the green to show through, because there's not much of the green, but because of the way the Polaroid is so long at the bottom, it actually covered up the image, so I had to do it this way. So I'm going to glue all 3 on with that MFT On Point Precision Glue. And then we are going to work on the next part of the card. So that's the whole entire front. Now I'm going to go in with my micron pen and draw on some eyelashes to the female gingerbread, or what I deem to be the female gingerbread, in all 3 of the images. And then I'm going to take a white gel pen, and I'm also going to put the white dots on the inside of their eyes in a minute. Oh, but the next part I'm going to do is, this is some white, it's not Nouveau, it was in a pack of 3 from Michael's, and I wanted the icing on their, like kind of the zigzag, the rick-rack stripes on them to kind of have some dimension to it. So I went and put this white, it's not glitter glue, but whatever you want to call it, Nouveau-ish drops on there. So on the one character, I did get a little bit too much, and I actually go back and scrape that off. Now I'm taking my white gel pen, because I couldn't find my Signo pen, and put the dots in the eyes. Actually, this pen has a little bit of a smaller tip to it, so it's probably better that I use this. And then I took 2 of the sentiments from the stamp set. So it says, let's spice up the holidays, and then Merry XXXmas. I'm going to ink them up with Catherine Pooler Midnight Ink, the same ink that I used to ink up the images. Now this piece of cardstock that's inside is 3 by 8.5, so it's 1/2 inch smaller than the card base. And so there was like little fuzzies on the side. As you can see, my trimmer is really not doing a good job. And when I was cutting off the fuzzies on the red one, I accidentally took that top right corner out. So what I did was put these on. Now, if I was to do this card over again, I'm actually going to do a stencil. I would do this after I did the stencil. I glued them on, and then I realized, I wanted to do one more step. So I should not have done this, but you live and you learn. And again, if I was to do it over again, I would wait until I was done the stenciled part to do this. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the stencil from, and so this one's also from Kindred Stamps, and it's called Schlong. And we're going to be taking the MFT Sweet Tooth Pigment ink with the mini ink blending tool from Tim Holtz. And we're going to be inking the image onto the top and bottom. So if you look, there's like a little ledge where the images are cut off. So what I did was I lined that up with the letters so that it would almost look like the sentiment was stamped in the middle of it, kind of like, the sentiment split the pattern. So I'm doing the exact same thing, but the opposite side. And this is where I was thinking, I should have just forgotten about putting the like little top and bottom caps on the green cardstock, and did that later. But I didn't get too much on there, and you can't really see the images on the little pieces of green cardstock. So there it is. I'm going to put that to the side to dry. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I put tape on the back of it, and now we're going to put it on the inside of the card and then let that dry, because pigment ink stays wet for longer. Now, what I also decided to do is there's a little bow in the image, so you can use it as a bow tie or a hair bow, and I decided to do 3 hair bows. So I stamped them on, and then I fussy cut them out, and then glued them on to the gingerbread girl, the one that I put the eyelashes on. And I also took a Spectrum Noir glitter pen, like one of the glitter markers, and went over the bow just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more sparkle, because I felt like the card just needed a little, every card I feel like needs a little bit of glitter or sparkle or something. And I used my MFT On Point Precision Glue to glue that down. I also picked these gemstones from the Paper Studio, which is Hobby Lobby's private label brand, and pick the smallest ones and put the jewels in the middle of the bow as well for just a little bit more bling. So I did that to all 3 of the bows. So I hope that you guys like this card. I hope it wasn't too naughty. I saw the stamp set. I thought it was funny. I had to pick it up. And then, of course, the stencil had to come along with it. So I decided to make probably my last Christmas card that I'm going to do on video just be a little bit naughty. So there you go. You can see that. And then there is the inside of the card. The last thing that I wanted to do is I took a Copic B00 marker and just went around the images. I thought they were a little bit too plain, like the little background. I probably should have done maybe like a color wash behind it, but using this Copic marker, it helps it stand out a little bit from the background. It almost gives it like a shadow around the entire image. But that's what I did around all of the images and all 3 of the Polaroids. I just went around the images with that just to kind of make it pop off of the paper just a teeny tiny bit. So that's it. There's the card and the front and the front and then the inside. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you again real soon for the next video. Bye!